A very good evening to everyone. I hope you all are doing well and have settled comfortably into the new academic year. It gives me immense pleasure to begin our learning journey for this academic year on the auspicious occasion of Guru Purnima. A very happy Guru Purnima to all the teachers who have joined us today and also to those who couldn't join because they are out there busy making a difference in the lives of our young ones. All of us are there in the academic field because we are deeply passionate about teaching. That 40 minutes in the classroom brings us a kind of satisfaction that nothing else in the world can match. But teaching doesn't stop at simply delivering content. That's just the beginning. The institution, the parents, and society at large place their trust in teachers to go beyond academics, to inculcate values, to nurture skills, and to shape children into responsible, righteous individuals. The expectations don't end there. Many parents also look to teachers for support in shaping their children's eating habits. We often hear familiar concerns from parents.
Good
My
afternoon,
child
ma'am.
is energetic. My child is too dull. My child is a fussy eater. He doesn't eat at all. She eats only junk food. Please tell him or her to eat properly. So, how we as educators address these concerns? After all, we are subject matter experts, not food scientists, not food technologists, and certainly not qualified nutritionists. Even for us as adults who are trying to eat healthy, getting the right guidance can feel overwhelming. Our elders used to say, eat everything and you'll stay healthy. And many of us did just that and still feel full of energy even today. But now, when we try to be mindful, we often turn to Google and end up confused. One expert tells us to cut down on everything white, like sugar and refined flour. But then again, milk, curd, and eggs are white too and are supposed to be good for us. So, what do we do? Are diet colas better than regular ones? Do sugar substitutes like stevia truly contain no sugar? Is jaggery really better than sugar? The truth is, I don't know. And honestly, sometimes I feel afraid when I pop a sweet into my mouth. What if I'm harming myself? We have stopped enjoying our food because we are constantly second guessing our choices. And if I, as an adult, a parent, and a teacher, feel so uncertain about my own sugar intake, how am I supposed to guide my students and children to make the right food choices? I have so many questions and very few clear answers. To help us better understand this complex and crucial topic, sugar or no sugar, how much, when, what, and why, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Dr. Meghna Ramaraju. Dr. Meghna is a dedicated pediatrician who works in both the pediatric intensive care unit and the neonatal intensive care unit. She is well versed in handling critically ill children and newborns and is deeply committed to providing quality care for all her young patients. Her vast understanding of child health enables her to deliver accurate diagnosis and effective treatments. More than just a doctor, she is a compassionate guide who supports parents through every step of their child's health journey. She currently serves as a consultant pediatrician at Little Wonders Children's and Multispeciality Clinic located in Kokapeta, Hyderabad. Let us give a warm welcome to Dr. Meghna Ramaraju and look forward to learning from her today. Dr. Meghna.
Much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction and for the warm welcome. Happy Guru Purnima to one and all. Though today I'm going to conduct the webinar, I was also once a student and at this level because of my teachers. So I'm extremely grateful to my teachers for all the love, care, and obviously the knowledge they have given to me. So today, let me just share my presentation. The screen is visible to everyone, right? The screen is visible?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Just a second. My screen is not visible?
No, ma'am.
This screen is visible, the Zoom screen? None of the screens are visible?
Not yet, ma'am. What I can do is I can share it from my end if that is okay with you.
Yeah, share the screen from your end.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Give me 1 minute.
Yeah, I think now I'm able to share this. Visible?
Yes, it is starting to being shared.
Thank you.
It is visible now.
Yeah. So, 1 second. Visible now?
It is, ma'am. It is.
Yeah. So before we get into the topic, like Madam has rightly said, that the confusion is about what to take and how much to take. So today, hopefully, we'll try to solve the confusion, and we'll try to make this session an interactive one with a lot of question and answers. In case you want me to break somewhere, we can break and take some questions and again continue further. So in the last few decades, we have seen a tremendous increase in sugar consumption. This is partly true and partly not, because before that, enough studies were not there to measure and gauge our sugar consumption. And also, the advent of the processed food has made it very increasingly unhealthy. And also, nowadays most people are eating out, working parents, no, not much time to make, weekends want to relax, a lot of junk food. So the amount of sugar consumption has really increased. So so today we'll try to see what to take, how much to take, and when to take. Okay. So first we will see what is sugar. So sugar, traditionally it is believed that it's only the white substance that we add in, tea or coffee or any other drinks, but it is actually a class of carbohydrates, and it is of course the major source of energy. Carbohydrates contribute to 70% of the source of energy in our body. Yeah. So carbohydrates can be classified into simple and complex. Simple sugars are the sugars most commonly consumed by us. In that, we have two categories. One is monosaccharides and one is disaccharides. So in monosaccharides, we have glucose, fructose, and galactose. These are the simple sugars that are absorbed almost directly, except galactose, fructose, and glucose have transporters in our cells and thus can be absorbed directly. Disaccharides constitute of what's wrong with, sorry for the interruption, what's wrong with the screen, Salwar? I'm not able to navigate through actually. Yeah. Okay, it's back. Sorry. So disaccharides have maltose, lactose, and sucrose. So they are nothing but a combination of monosaccharides in different combinations. So our body breaks down maltose, lactose, and sucrose ultimately into glucose and fructose, and that is what is absorbed. Coming to the complex carbohydrates, they are polysaccharides, means they have more links in the chain. So they comprise of starches, fibers, and glycogen. So what are the sources of sugar? So this is most important. So we have natural sources of sugar like milk, whole fruits, vegetable, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and yogurt. So if you actually look up at the calorie count of each of the things that we are consuming routinely from the natural sources, they also have some portion of sugar, some portion of glucose, or some other monosaccharides. Whereas added sugar, that is free sugar, which is not available in our natural sources, but we add through other sources. They are honeys and syrups, juices and smoothies, cool drinks, cakes, white sugar that we add, jaggery that we add, preserved fruits or vegetables, sauces and jams, flavored yogurts. So basically, curd becomes a natural source. that is the natural yogurt, and flavored yogurts are the ones which we buy at the stores, which have a lot of added sugars. Breads and processed food, white sugar, brown sugar, coconut sugar, cane sugar, all these come under added or free sugar. So what the question what all of us have in mind is what to take and what actually counts as excessive sugar intake.
Meghna, I'm just one announcement that I want to make to all the teachers. Good afternoon, everyone. So, if in case you want to ask any question, just raise your hand, and we'll allow you to unmute you and yourself, and then you can ask the questions. At any given point of time, if you have questions, you can write them in chat. We can ask it, or if you want to ask yourself, you can just raise your hands. Ma'am, please continue.
So what counts? What counts as added sugars or what counts as a health hazard is actually the free sugars. So which like I have told is the non-natural sources of sugar. And what does not count is only 4 or 5 things actually. So easy for us to remember. Milk and milk products, grains, whole fruits, whole vegetables. These are the only thing which don't count as added sugar. Rest everything counts as added sugar in our diet. Okay. So what we are eating is healthy, really. So it's time to start thinking. So there are some foods which have traditionally been offered as healthy foods, but have lot of added sugars. So it's like really masked. So when someone is sick, what do we say? Did you eat bread? Bread kha liya kya? Or you have some bread and jam. Maybe that will make you feel better during fever. Okay, and then sometimes you have bread with sauce or you have an omelette with sauce, have some bread with jam, have some bread with peanut butter, have some cereal. Cereal is very healthy, so cereal will help you in your growth and nutrition, especially for kids as above the age of 3 or 4. Once the choking hazards are gone, everyone starts to offer cereals. I don't want to mention the brands, but cornflakes, cereals, and mueslis, all these have been glorified as healthy food, which are not actually healthy because once you turn the pack and see, you see that the amount of added sugars are quite a few. So like you can see on this slide, all these foods, they will say, have a glass of juice, you will feel better. Have 2 slices of bread, you will feel better. Have some omelette with sauce. At least he's eating the omelette because he's having some sauce. So this has been ingrained in our bodies and our day-to-day life as a healthy alternative or some alternative that helps especially kids to take some amount of food, like all the dressings, all the cereals, all the sauces. There's of some help to parents for them to take up some healthy foods like egg or omelette or things like that.
Ma'am, there is
So
a question from a teacher. She wants to ask if brown sugar is healthy for kids.
no, brown sugar is nothing but white sugar with some color alternative. So just maybe wait for a few minutes. I will tell you the amount of sugar that is healthy, and based on that, we can decide. Okay. I'll answer that question soon. Daily sugar recommendation. What the WHO recommends is that your total daily energy from free sugar should be less than 10%. Okay. So that if you take it less than 5%, that is, if you take it less than 6 teaspoons would approximately amount to 25 grams of sugar. So that would be better for health benefits. So at least 10, less than 10%, or ideally less than 5% of the total food intake should be sugars, like free sugars. That is all that is recommended. Okay, this if sugar is taken in this moderation, then only we will be able to reduce the risk of obesity and tooth decay. What is the recommendation right now? Because we are talking mainly about kids. What is the American Heart Association, American Academy of Pediatrics recommendation? the Indian Academy of Pediatrics is also going by the same recommendations. So for kids, maximum 5% of the energy only should come from added sugar. Adults should take less than 30 grams per day. That is 7 teaspoons of sugar. And children 2+ years of age should take less than 25 grams per day. So mostly in the school setup, teachers are dealing with 2+ years, but just to show you how alarming it is, less than 2 years kids should have no added sugar in their diet. Okay, that is what is the best recommendation that it is given by AHA and AAP. So coming to the question of brown sugar, like I told you, brown sugar or white sugar or cane sugar or jaggery, all these need to be added to the diet. So it comes as added sugars. Only milk, whole grains, whole grains, whole vegetables, and whole fruits. These are the only things we don't count while taking, but otherwise rest all comes under added sugars. So the added sugars should be less than 25 grams, so should be less than 6 teaspoons. We are okay if 1 spoon of sugar is added into something, but other than that also kids are taking some snack, something throughout the day, so the sugar content in that plus that added sugar, everything needs to be counted, and it needs to amount to less than 5 to 60 tablespoons per day.
Ma'am, a teacher wants to ask if Glucon-D or glucose supplement that we used to give is healthy or not, or is permissible or not.
So ideally, no kid should require a Glucon-D supplementation if they are taking a good amount of balanced diet. If you're taking a balanced diet, say if you're taking some rice, some roti, some curries, along with that, some yogurt, the amount of sugar that is needed for the day-to-day functioning of the child is already there. So you need not add any, like normally how the Glucon-D and the sugar supplements, they advertise that it gives additional energy. But if that energy is coming through the balanced diet, then surely they don't need it. So that needs to be understood, that it's more like a marketing strategy that kids are going to get energy. But at the end of the day, Glucon-D and all are nothing but two big, not even two actually, 4 to 5 spoons of sugar added in 100 ml water, that gives that instant kick, which we are going to see in the upcoming slides, that gives that instant kick to kids for them to play vigorously for the next few hours. But it has its own pitfalls. So no, it is not healthy. The supplementation of the carbohydrate should come from a well balanced diet, not from supplements like this. Okay. So what are the trends in sugar consumption? If you can see from the year, we have taken a very recent trend from the year 2015 to the year 2022. You can see how already by 2015 itself, the average mark from the last 20 years had crossed. Now from 2015, one second. Now the trend is going up, and the estimate is that by 2030 it will become double of what we have seen in 2015. So now let us see the health hazards with sugar. First, most fearsome health hazard is childhood obesity. Because once the child is obese, that is having central obesity, that is at the level of the tummy, then it leads to a lot of insulin imbalance and insulin resistance in our body, which is going to predispose us. See, what is the mechanism? Whenever there is excess sugar, so as long as there is sufficient sugar that the body needs to metabolize for the day-to-day functioning, it is okay. Whenever there is excess sugar, the sugar will be converted to something called as fatty acids, and then further into a complex fats called triglycerides, which are stored in fat cells, that is adipocytes. So once the deposition of fat in the body is there, it leads to childhood obesity. So more sugars, more triglycerides are formed in the body. So the fat keeps slowly depositing. and the stomach area in our body is rich in adipocytes. So any excess fat usually goes into the stomach and the waist area in the body, and that leads, it's something called central obesity, means the center of the body is obese. That is something to be worried about. So what happens if the child is obese? It's okay, the child is healthy, nice laddu child is there. No, that is not what we are supposed to think. Childhood obesity is there, means there will obviously be a chance of getting early type 2 diabetes in the child, early risk of hypertension, and early risk of coronary artery disease. So this is all like a conundrum. More fat deposition, more hunger will come, more more obese, again more fats will be there. So all again the deposition will be, again you will feel hungry. So this is all a vicious cycle which needs to be broken. Children, this is an, one second, this is a under 5 study exclusively. This is called National Family Health Survey, which is done every 3 to 4 years based on the government recommendation. You can see from 2015 to 16, from 2015 to 16, Salover, is someone else also operating the slides?
No, ma'am, that's not possible.
Yeah, because it's jumping constantly. Yeah, so you can see that only 2% of obesity was recorded. Now it has crossed the 5% mark. Currently it is at 8% of childhood obesity, and 22% of the kids are overweight. Last 5 years back, only 11% of the kids were overweight. Now that number has doubled. So insulin resistance is the young. Just a small introduction on insulin. Just insulin is a hormone which helps in the glucose metabolism. So it tells the body cells to uptake glucose and use it as a source of energy. So very useful hormone. So how the young kids are getting this insulin resistance? This insulin resistance is usually a problem of the old, because pancreas will be producing insulin, and this insulin production and the cell's responsiveness to insulin also keeps decreasing once our aging of the cells keep happening. So this is actually a problem of the old. But how come it's happening in the young? Because the young are nowadays taking lot of sugar content. So high sugars, the pancreas will produce more insulin to metabolize it. So initially it all looks good because the child is okay, your pancreas are okay. Over time, this more and more insulin will be producing, and the body cells become less sensitive to insulin. Because of the high signaling input, the slowly the sensitivity to insulin signaling decreases, and the cells in the body become resistant to insulin. So the pancreas, so what happens? Initially, say 5 units of insulin was able to produce that response. Now 10 units is also not able to produce. After 15 days, 15 units is also not able to produce. That time what will happen? The pancreas will be at a pressure to produce more and more. There will be a point when the pancreas are tired and unable to produce such high amounts of insulin, and the pancreas cells also start to die because of such high load. Okay, this will slowly lead to deficiency of insulin in the body and the cells not responding even though the high levels of insulin are there. So a lot of glucose, instead of going into the cells, is already present in the blood and increasing the blood glucose, which is nothing but type 2 diabetes. So this is the reason why the diabetes rates have been increasing in the youth. So what are the signs of insulin? This is very, very important, especially for the teachers to identify at school. Very simple signs. One is weight changes. If you see that children are overweight, looking much more chubbier and much more heavier than their peers, then that is a sign that they might be having some underlying insulin resistance. Skin tags. These look like a cosmetic issues, but multiple skin tags, if present, indicate insulin resistance. So skin tags become activated in 4-5 scenarios. One is insulin resistance, one is in females pregnancy, and second thing is during menarche, that is on at the onset of their menstrual cycles. Any exclusive hormonal changes like this will lead to skin tags. So kids with a lot of skin tags in their body, on their face, or on their back could indicate some insulin resistance. Next, discolored patches of skin. This is actually skin thickening, especially at the nape of the neck, which is nothing but the back of the neck, and in the underarm area and in the folds of the skin. So this is termed as acanthosis nigricans. It is like a red flag sign. So about to come, diabetes is about to come, obesity is about to come, then you start getting these kind of discolored patches. Next is excessive acne. Because of the presence of excessive fats in the body, the bacteria start to grow on the skin and produce excess acne. Belly fat, the central obesity that I was talking about. So if any child with any like excessive belly, you need to be aware of their insulin resistance. An irregular menstrual cycle is an indication that the child is either developing a thyroid issue or is developing some early onset diabetes symptoms. So look, from early onset diabetes, previously, if any person below 20 years was diagnosed with diabetes, we used to exclusively label it as type 1 diabetes, which means that it is an autoimmune thing. You can't avoid it. You can't do anything about it. The cells in the pancreas get destroyed and the insulin secretion gets reduced. But now you can see that between the ages of 10 to 20 years, how the trends have raised in the till 2018, how sharp the trend is in the increasing case of type 2 diabetes. So that is quite alarming for us now. So the sweet truth about sugars is that it will ultimately end up damaging all your sweet teeth. So tooth contains bacteria. We all know the natural bacteria, they keep growing on the teeth. So as long as we are in good health, we are in good hygiene, they're all calm. So along with the food particles, the bacteria constantly keep forming a plaque. That is what we are removing by brushing. What happens when we add sugar to this mixture? Sugar plus bacteria plus food particles will change the pH of the this environment and will cause acid release. So acid means corrosion. So obviously the child will be getting cavities and the enamel will be corroded. The tooth will be becoming weak. And like you can see in the image, nicely one hole will be formed, which will later be filled by the dentists. So that's a simple avoidable problem. Just take lesser sugars, keep do regular brushing twice daily, and do flossing once daily, and you can just keep your tooth healthy. Coming to behavioral changes, any question?
Yeah, ma'am, there are a few questions. Can we take this up now or maybe
Yeah.
later?
No, we can take it.
Okay. So there's a question that what about ORS or electoral Tetra packs? Sugar is there also?
Yeah. So ORS, it is a WHO formulated regimen to prevent dehydration in diarrheas or vomitings, or when the child is having any fluid losses. That is when it is recommended. ORS is not a drink to be taken every day. In that, if you can see, yes, there is glucose, but the amount of glucose is moderated along with the other electrolytes. We don't recommend to take ORS on an everyday basis. We only recommend to take ORS when your body is having some fluid losses. So during diarrhea, if you're not taking ORS, it is a mistake. But on a regular basis, thinking that ORS is healthy, if you're taking, that is also adding to your added sugars. So once again, I'm telling, for getting your source of energy, it is just diet, and diet. Just having a balanced diet is enough to keep you healthy and to keep a good balance of minerals and vitamins and all the carbohydrates and fats.
Okay, ma'am, there are multiple questions asking about the same thing. I think, in fact, every one of us.
What we'll do is, let's just do the effects of sugars So some
Okay.
questions might be answered and then we can take some questions.
Right. Yeah.
So coming to behavioral changes which happen with sugars, the most alarming thing and the most important thing is in today's day is the behavioral changes that are happening because of sugars. When you take high sugar levels, it leads to the below hyperactivity. We see kids. I've heard some grandparents say that our kids were very good. They never used to shout at parents. They never used to hit parents. They never used to throw things. They never used to show so many tantrums. What is the difference between the previous generation and this? It is the sugar intake that is causing that hyperactivity. Because if you take a lot of sugars, it will be metabolized immediately by the body and it will be absorbed by the cells, giving a lot of energy to the cells. And the kids, they don't know how to use that energy, so it will lead to hyperactivity. Next, ADHD like symptoms. If the hyperactivity increases, it will cause attention deficits, the child unable to focus, child unable to sit at a place, the child will be running around and all this. So concentration issues. So children nowadays, they're sitting at a place, not able to finish writing a paragraph. Many of the teachers here would agree that they have noticed things like this because every day they are eating 2 to 3 chocolates or one pastry or one curry puff or they are drinking one big glass of smoothie. So that is the after effect of that their the learning abilities and their concentration has come down. And also cognitive impairment. There is a lot of research going on sugar and cognitive impairment, especially in under 2 kids, wherein the brain growth is happening. But still, some amount of neural connections always keep happening in our lives. So, lot of sugars means it causes cell membrane damage, and that will ultimately lead to the cognitive impairment. That is, the child is unable to focus, the child is unable to do the reasoning part of the brain. So let's talk about the sugar cravings. After eating one chocolate, do we stop? No, we feel like eating 2 or 3 more chocolates. Not just chocolates, this happens with sweet also. After we eat one Kaju Katli, we feel like eating just another half Kaju Katli, another small piece of Kaju Katli. So, yes, partly it is, like how we have been brought up. Ki just eat one more sweetener, nothing is going to happen. That is also there. But mostly it is a complex neurological mechanism, which I will try to elaborate simply. So, how do we get these sugar cravings? So, once you start taking excess sugar, what happens is in our brain, there is a neurotransmitter called dopamine. So, this dopamine is released for every good thing we do. So, if the teacher praises us in class, even that also gives a dopamine surge. If we eat excess sugar, that also gives a dopamine surge. Even in drug addicts, when they take drugs, that also gives them a dopamine surge. So just the amount of dopamine is different for each case, but the behavior of dopamine is just the same. So when we are taking excessive sugar, instead of little bit of dopamine, lot of dopamine is being released. So because of that, we get a good feeling about ourselves. We get an encouraged feeling. How we feel after eating something sweet, we can feel like we can conquer the world. We can do this. So much work is there, still we can finish it. That feeling is not because of us, it is because of the sugar. So what happens next time if you want that good feeling or if you want to keep that good feeling alive? What you do, we will eat more sugar because what we think, this sugar is not like a drug. Sugar is not anything bad. So if we eat a sweet and if we feel good, if we are feeling stressed in some situation, we eat a sweet, it's okay, na? And then over a time, your body develops tolerance. If today one sweet has given me or one chocolate has given me that good feeling, that X amount of surge of dopamine, next time you have to take 2 sweets or 2 chocolates to get the same amount of dopamine because our body gets used to that previous quantity of sugar. So slowly you develop tolerance and you start taking more and more sugars to produce the same peaceful or the same good feeling in your brain. So after saying all this, I would like to call sugar as harmful as any of the drugs also, because drugs are having so many effects, but sugar is having its own health hazards in its own way over a long term. Coming to mood and mental health, what happens to the mood? So everyone feels that after taking a lot of sugars, our mood has been uplifted. I was feeling sleepy, now I'm feeling energized. So yesterday there was a function at home, so I did not get enough sleep. Now I've had a sweet, now I'm feeling so much better. Sugar has helped me. But what happens after having a sugar rich meal? This is the story of every household now, because every household is consuming a lot of processed food containing bread, containing so many added sauces, so many preservatives which are sugar rich. So whenever you take any processed food and all, it's a sugar rich meal. Once the meal is digested, while it is being digested, it is a sudden spike of sugar. Once the meal is digested, there is a sudden fall in sugar levels. So how would you feel? Your immediate rush has come to a zero. So it becomes fatigue, irritability, mood changes, sweating, dizziness. So what happens when you get these kind of symptoms? We want to save ourselves. So again, we look at the sugars. We start to crave for the sugars. We start to look at our enemy to be our friend again. And that is the reason of the deteriorating mental health in the current generation. See, if you take long-term sugar intake, especially from childhood, like how the kids are taking now, they're more predisposed to anxiety, mood disorders, and depression. Once the sugar intake reduces, once there is no sugar in the body, the child start to feel anxious to take more sugars. They start to feel irritable, hyperactive, and after a long term of these effects being, next the body does is to produce lesser and lesser neurotransmitters on each meal, which causes depression in the young. So coming to sleep and sugar intake, what impact does sugar have on sleep? So high sugar intake, especially at or slightly before bedtime, will interfere with melatonin, which is a sleep hormone which induces sleep in us. It will decrease the melatonin, so the sleep cycle will be disturbed, the onset of sleep will be disturbed, and the cortisol, which is the stress hormone, that will be increased. So whenever cortisol is increased and melatonin is decreased, there will be more restlessness, more difficulty in falling asleep, and frequent night awakenings. Nowadays, you see everyone is going around the bed not able to sleep. We need two things: either our phone, or we are not able to sleep. That is because you are needing that constant stimulation. You are not able to fall asleep. Your latent period from the time you get into the bed to you get that sleep has been increased so much, because most of us are having a sugary meal or some form of sugars at mealtime. Immunity suppression is one more important and less discussed and less known effect of sugars. So high blood sugar level will cause inflammation. Like I was telling you, the cell membrane of whenever the blood contains more sugar, that sugar keeps depositing on the cell membrane, and the membrane keeps getting damaged slowly. So once any damage is there in our body, our immune system will get activated to start repairing it. So it will produce a local inflammation at the site of cells. So when this happens constantly with all the organs, it will lead to immune suppression and inflammation. So parents keep asking me what to be given to improve the immunity of our babies. You give a balanced diet with less sugar, that will take care of itself. You don't have to give anything else to increase the immunity. Vitamin C rich foods, vitamin C supplements are also recommended nowadays, because there is a lot of this immune suppression and inflammation which can be corrected with vitamin C. That is why the demand has gone up so much. So one more effect you see is nowadays lot of kids are coming with rashes, itching, eczema, and allergies, food allergies. Lot of kids are coming with coughing, wheezing, and asthma exacerbations. Lot of rise in autoimmunity, that is our immune system acting against ourselves. That is also because of the high sugar intake that is increasing the blood sugar levels, that is damaging the cells, that is confusing the immunity to act against our own body. Liver health risks, most important problem in the young, that is in the age of 30 to 40 years, is non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases. So previously in our hospitals, when anyone came with a big tummy with lot of fluid with some liver issue, we used to think that this fellow is an alcoholic, this person is an alcoholic, has drunk so much alcohol to do this to our liver. Now the same thing we are doing with our liver with sugars. So excessive sugars, like we have discussed, causes insulin resistance and obesity. So we are forced. So at the end of the day, all the storage forms goes into adipose tissue at the level of the stomach, or if even excess is there, it will go into the liver. So all the excess fatty acids, triglycerides, all these complex fats are taken up by the liver. So for some time, liver thinks, okay, I'm trying to absorb, but beyond the limit, there will be oxidative stress, because more fats means more oxygen is being used. And whenever the fats are being metabolized, more free radicals are being produced. And it will again activate the liver cell damage, and it will lead to liver fibrosis, non-alcoholic fatty liver, and finally liver failure, which also causes bleeding risks and death in patients. Nutritional deficiencies, whatever we are talking of the sugars, is like we've got some questions like, is Glucon-D healthy? When you're taking sugar by itself as an added sugar, it is nothing but empty calories. Yes, calorie count is being fulfilled, but it is without any balanced nutrition. So whenever you say you're given a child a Glucon-D glass, then the child will consume at least 50% of the meal will be reduced. So you're reducing 50% of the nutrients and the micronutrients that the child is getting through salads or through the vegetable portion or through the meat portion. So that will give mineral and vitamin deficiencies like B vitamin deficiency, C deficiency, folate, magnesium, calcium, and B12. All these are very important in the functioning of our body, functioning of our nervous system, and functioning of our bones also. Just a second. Yeah, any questions we can take up now? These are the basic effects of sugars. Any questions we'll take up?
Okay, ma'am, there are multiple questions. So what I've done is I've grouped them in the categories they fall into. So many people want to ask, and I think Nation want to ask this question as well. If a jaggery is the healthy alternative for sugar, because we all do that and
Yes.
me myself do that because I also use jaggery instead of sugar. Is that a healthy alternative or not?
Jaggery is jaggery and dates. These two things are commonly used in our households, and they have been very much glorified in the Indian scenario. You have a date, you have a jaggery. So among jaggery and dates also, I give more points to dates. It's a better healthy alternative because dates are having sugars plus fiber plus iron. So jaggery, everyone says jaggery is iron rich, because as a child, my mom used to give me the laddus with jaggery and sesame seeds, dry fruit and jaggery laddu, saying that you have to eat this, you will get lot of iron, and especially given to female children, saying that you might be menstruating, you need to have lot of blood, so you eat iron. So you eat jaggery to get iron. I want to clarify that yes, jaggery contains some iron. Yes, jaggery contains some other micronutrients as well. But to get the benefit of that iron, if you need to get sufficient iron as a supplement from your daily food, you need to consume like 1 kilo of jaggery. So that would put a lot of load on the added sugars. Like I was telling you, jaggery is not milk, milk product, whole grain, whole fruit, or whole vegetable. So jaggery is also added sugar. So once you're adding jaggery, definitely it is better than sugar because jaggery contains about 80% sucrose and the other part is iron and micronutrients. But to get, like I was telling, it is only 20%, which is a which is a minor portion. So if you have to get that benefit of iron and that micronutrients, you have to consume jaggery in large amounts. Eliminating sugar from the diet is not correct. Jaggery is a healthier option than the white sugars and the brown sugars which are available. But even jaggery needs to be taken in moderation. ऐसा नहीं है कि this is laddu made with jaggery or this is sweet made with jaggery. So we can eat 6 or 7 laddus. We can eat 6 or 7 things made with jaggery. Even dates are good to be given. Dates can be taken in moderation, maybe 2 to 3 dates a day, and that is good. Under this is not the bracket, but under 1 year, even jaggeries we need to avoid. Even dates we need to avoid. Only the sweetness and the sugars come from the natural fruits and the whole grains, because under 1 we are developing food choices. So if we give lot of sugary taste thing, then it is automatic that the child will be switching towards sugars. The problem is with sugars is like drugs, it's an addictor. So once you start giving more sugar alternatives also like jaggery and dates, the children will go in the lane which takes them to sugars and ultimately to junk. Because once the child crosses 10 years or 11 years, there is little control that the parents can put, and I'm sure most of the teachers also would agree with that. This is clarified? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. There are a few questions that many of teacher wants to understand if sugar-free alternatives which are there in the market, like suppose sugar-free or Natura, these alternatives, are they healthy or can they be a better replacement for the sugar for kids?
Yeah. So this sugar-free alternatives usually nowadays which are available in the market are stevia, and the sugar-free tablets or the sugar-free drinks are having aspartame and all. So studies are still undergoing, but aspartame, stevia, all of them have been proven. See, because ultimately they're sugar substitutes only. So the metabolism is not the same. Like I was telling, if you take sugar directly, it will be broken into glucose and it will be directly absorbed. The metabolism is not that similar. They are complex. The metabolism with the sugar substitutes is, or the sugar alternatives or the sugar free substitutes is more complex. But again, at the end of the day, they will be converted into sugar through a more complex mechanism. And the cell, so when their metabolism is happening, what the research has found out is a lot of free radicals are being released. Free radicals are nothing but the ions with a charge. So these free radicals keep damaging the cell slowly. So there are some diabetic patients who take in their tea every day to tablets of the sugar free, or every day to one few drops of stevia. Somewhat stevia is better than other alternatives because it is a plant extract, but even in the preparation of stevia there is a lot of preservatives added. There is a lot which is generating the free radicals, which is causing cell damage and predisposing on a later note, on a long term impact, it is predisposing to cancer. So definitely, and one more thing is, in all these sugar free alternatives we are going to discuss in the next, what you can see is, if you check the fat content, there is a lot of excessive fat content. If you see some sugar free milk product alternatives, you can see that they have used an excessive amount of whole cream. Otherwise, how are you getting that sweet and acceptable taste? You wouldn't buy a product from the market if it is not having an acceptable taste, right? So so a lot of fat content is being added, which after a lot of processing in the body will again get converted into glucose, again go and deposit in your fat cells, and again cause the same effects as discussed above.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, then. So there's a lot of talks about millets these days. So what is your take on millets?
Sorry,
How
I
are
didn't
they?
get you. Please repeat the question.
So I am asking, there are a lot of talks about millets and their benefits for children and for everybody around. So what is your take on millets? Are they helpful?
Yeah. So millets are a class of carbohydrates. Most millets are all oligosaccharides, means multiple branching chains are there. So whenever in the structure of a carbohydrate, if the structure is straight and simple, it needs less energy from our body to break it down. So even your food to be broken down, to be digested, needs some energy from your body. So this energy is minimal when the carbohydrates are simple, like the glucose or the sucrose, like sugar alternatives. But in the millets, what happens is there is a branching in the chains, because of which what is happening is the body needs to use some extra energy. So though millets are giving a significant amount of energy, we are also using our energy from our body to break down the millets, because of which it becomes a much healthy alternative, even better than rice for consumption, to reduce the overall sugar intake, and also it helps in the weight loss. That is why it is helping in the weight loss, because the net energy whatever you're seeing at the end of the day is less. Though if you read on the individual millets, the amount of energy would be the same, but the glycemic index, that is the amount of sugar it is going to add to the blood, would be much lesser, and also the digestion takes a lot of time. So the energy release would be more slow, and that spike wouldn't be that fast. Second thing, millets are a rich source of micro minerals, iron, calcium, and also some rare minerals like selenium, chromium are present in some of the millets. And also millets are a very very good source of fiber, so in kids they will prevent issues like constipation and make the gut health much better way. And when there is good fiber intake, the good bacteria in your gut also will be forming in a better way, so overall your gut health will be changed because of millets. So millets, in our presentation, millets also come under whole grains, which are natural sugars, which will not be counted as added sugars in the intake. So, yes, millets are a very good option, but there are some people for whom there is some intolerance towards millets, means they will be having loose stools, vomitings, intolerance like that. They will not be able to use millets. You can try alternatives in millets, different types of millets like jowar, ragi, bajra, and all that. But there are some class of millets that some people would not be able to tolerate. Then it would be difficult to use millets. But yes, definitely millets is a good alternative.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarification. I think that is specifically true for the patients of thyroid. It's not good for them, right?
Yeah. So thyroid, not all millets, bajra, sorghum, these are not good for thyroid. Ragi is somewhat okay. See, but that also in moderation again. If
Yes.
you're able to take in moderation, if you're doing like an all millet diet, like suggested by these nutrition apps, then
Yes.
it would be a problem. In normal scenarios also, you shouldn't be doing an all millet diet, because every grain has its own importance. Even rice has its own importance, wheat has its own importance. So you need to get something good out of every grain, but again take in moderation based on the glycemic index. Rice has a high glycemic index, it gives a sugar spike. So the portion controlling is important, which we are not doing. ऐसा नहीं है कि you take off one full big katori of rice. You can take a smaller katori of rice with some protein component like a paneer, or non-vegetarians can have chicken or egg, and you can take a salad component. So your carbohydrate is done, protein is done. If you add some ghee, you will get some good fat, some DHA, and that will automatically become your balanced meal. And on the side, if you can add some green leafy vegetable ka bhaji, then it will become like a an excellent meal. I'm also going to add a small note on the meal planning after this.
Yes, so there are a lot of questions around Bonvita that is used, Bonvita Complan. So that is used for as a additive to the milk. So is that a good?
Yeah.
I mean, is
So
it good?
let's talk about milk mixes. So what is recommended by the by all the pediatric associations throughout the world is ideally, especially for kids, milk needs to be taken in a plain manner without adding anything, even sugar, and nothing needs to be added. Milk needs to be taken in a plain manner. Why we are saying this? Not because 1 spoon of sugar is going to harm in an overall intake, but by adding a spoon of sugar every day, you are creating a habit for them. So you're again making them accustomed to that sweet taste. And like I was telling, throughout the day when you're taking, it will add. This what happens with this Bonvita, Horlicks, and all. Even that is a marketing strategy. So they have been like Horlicks says stronger, healthier, and sharper. So everyone wants intelligent kids. Everyone wants strong kids. Everyone wants healthy kids. So they start to go there. And Complan used to advertise as to grow taller in height with a growth chart they used to offer directly. If milk itself is see it's there are many kids who don't drink milk and they're still doing fine. Yes, milk is a very good source of protein, very good source of calcium, magnesium, but it is not the only source of calcium, it is not the only source of magnesium, it is not the only source of protein or fat. Definitely there are some other alternatives. So in that milk, if you're taking it by itself, it's okay. First of all, the amount of milk recommended overall is 200 ml per day maximum. You should not for kids above 2 years of age or 3 years of age, you can take only about 200 ml of milk per day. So when you're already, milk is a rich source of nutrients. When you're adding these milk mixes, so nowadays in the market there are two types of milk mixes available. One is the traditional Bonvita, Complan and all, which are having lot of added sugars. Just switch and see what the 100 gram contains, and you will see that there are lot of added sugars. 16 grams of added sugars, 22 grams of added sugars, wherein I have been telling that kids need to take only 25 grams overall. So in other things, you will end up adding something, somewhere you will be adding. So it means that if you add 2 spoons of a milk mix of the traditional milk mixes, you're done for the day with your kid, or 3 spoons. Sometimes kids don't want to drink milk and they ask for an extra spoon. So it means that you're done for the day. Then second thing is that second type of milk mixes available now are the no added sugar milk mixes. By no added sugar, they don't mean that there is no added sugar of any sort. They mean that there is added sugar in the form of dates and jaggery. By this no added sugar, they are only referring to white sugar, not the brown sugar, not the jaggery, not the dates. So what happens? Initially, you will add 1 spoon in the milk. Then later, the child gets accustomed to the taste and start asking for more and more. So ideally, we should avoid the milk mixes. If you want to mix something in the milk, a good alternative is nut powders, because nuts have some addition already. They have some sweetness. Mild, small amount of date powder. This amount should not be increasing on a daily basis for making the child more accustomed to the drinking milk concept. So date powder, nut powder, small amount of jaggery can be added to the milk to make it acceptable. Avoid using milk mixes because they will have added sugars, added preservatives in some form or the other.
All right, ma'am. So there's a very good question from Miss Anandya Mukherjee. She is an assistant teacher from St. Thomas Public School, West Bengal. She wants to understand children all have always had sweet tooth for cake and chocolate pastries since ages. It is of late that there are cases of diabetes and obesity in children on the rise, and doctors are now prescribing to cut off on or reduce the raw sugar. from children's everyday diet, because sugar gives energy to that young mind, that young mind needs. What is your take on that, ma'am?
So, like I was telling previously, also sugar gives energy to that young mind. But in this context, sugar means any form of carbohydrate. If it is constituting 60% of the total energy, it will give good intake. Then why not take the sugars from the healthy forms like nuts, or vegetables, fruits, all the fruits will have some amount of fructose, which is a good sugar, which is a natural sugar, absorbed directly, giving an instant kick, giving good fiber, vitamin C, vitamin A, and whatnot. Then why are we not consuming that? Doctors, see, so last in the last generation, to be frank, there were not these many studies, and the doctors did not estimate that the intake of sugar would cause so many influences. Now we are seeing influence on mental health, we are seeing influence on mood, we are seeing influence on sleep disturbances. So all these are long term effects which have been discovered and really researched after very long. But now actively, most doctors are recommending to cut down the sugars every day. At least in my OPD practice, every day I tell the parents to not give sugars. We are going to talk about the parental influence and how the family influence is being done. So that source of energy of sugar should come from the natural sources, not from the added sources. That is what I'm telling. I hope the question is answered.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So, now that we have understanding of the fact that sugar, some of the sugar like brown sugar, jaggery, and all these are not really good for us. From doctor's perspective, can you recommend what all sugar can actually be taken by the by children, and they can, I mean, it can be classified as good source of sugar?
See, you can take white sugar also, you can take brown sugar also, you can take jaggery, you can take date. Obviously, brown better than brown sugar and white sugar is jaggery and date, but the same thing, it needs to be used in moderation. If you're adding, say 5 spoons of date powder, then in some drink or in some milk or something, or you're adding some date powder and you're making a laddu, then your daily in so you we need to keep that daily intake in mind, that how much daily we need to take, so that that 25 grams only we are touching. This includes all these things what you're adding. So why should you add 2-3 spoons of jaggery or 2-3 spoons of date powder? Just add a pinch to get that little bit of natural sweetening. You can use fruits like berries, strawberry, raspberry, blueberry, all these things. Nowadays all the exotic fruits are available in the market, you can use that for sweetening. When you have seasonal fruits like mango and all, you can use that for sweetening. Sometimes you can try alternate flavors like kiwi and all for a sour taste. The thing is, whenever we are adding sugars, our body will be craving, because sugar is the best taste, so our body will be craving for the sugary taste again, and it will be turning towards the sugar.
So I think it is safe to say that the key is that you restrict it
Moderate.
from the start itself,
Yes.
and when the body is not adapted to that kind of sugar levels, so it will be better for the kid in future as well.
And
Right.
coming to now, see, now already some kids are already accustomed, right? It doesn't mean that we say leave those kids and we start focusing from the newborns. That's not the right strategy. So what to be done for the kids who are already accustomed, who are already coming to school, who are already doing this? First thing is that they need, especially kids who are 8 plus, understand most of these things. They need to know what the effects of the sugar are. I have told in a very detailed manner, but the crux of it can be given by the teachers or by the parents to the kids. They need to know that, because many kids nowadays are very smart, above 6 years, above 10 years, they really understand what's going on, what is going on in their body. Especially girl kids above the age of 12 years, they're very body conscious. So you can tell them that the energy and all, your if you want to maintain a good fit body, then you should take less sugars. For the boys, they listen, and in other ways, you have to say that you can become like a Spider-Man, or you can become like a Superman by taking less chocolates, by taking less sweets. So you have to incentivize them slightly, and also make them parallelly also make them understand in a way they would, so that they ultimately start to slowly turn away. It is not a change that is going to happen in a day or in a month. It would take a few months, but that constant effort should be there. We are going to discuss about that now. Let's do the
Yes,
influence,
yes, please.
and I think some questions will be answered, and then let's take up some of
Yes,
those.
ma'am. Yes.
Okay. So what is the parental influence of parents? Play a huge role in the families. Imagine if a mom is cooking 7 days a week, then it is less likely that she would allow the kids or the other family members to uh, yeah, I'll love the family members to go and eat out. It looks like a very strict concept, but slowly, if the children are not accustomed to taking junk every week or weekly twice or weekly thrice, their craving becomes less. So, do you crave for something which you have not tasted? No, right? So, the things you're fairly accustomed to, for those things only, you will have a lot of craving. So, the junk and all will be reduced. So, it is first what the parents have to do is do modeling behavior. So, they have to set an example. They have to decrease their own sugar consumption. They have to stop bringing sugary products into the families. A special note to the grandparents, the uncles and the aunties who want to make friendship with kids, or who want the kids to talk to them and interact with them. They will get that big chocolate, or that big box. If they are coming from the US or from the UK, they are getting that big box of sugars. Why don't we get some healthy alternatives? We can get a box of nuts or something. Though the child will not love you now, won't give you that big hug that you're expecting in the 5 minutes of interaction, you're doing so much good to the child. So this sugars should stop being used as a reward behavior. It is such a common dialogue. You do this, I will give you a chocolate. You finish your homework, then you will get a chocolate. Why should we reward the kids only with a chocolate? We can reward them with some alternative food, or with some other alternative thing. We can give them a good interactive toy, or we can take them on an outing in a park for a walk. So all these are promoting healthy behaviors, and the parents have a huge role to play with it. And also, the family, the elders, the grandparents, all these people need to support a lot in this kind of a thing. Coming to peer pressure, this is the topic to be discussed. So peer pressure, there is so much peer pressure. So today, one child's birthday is there in the community. The child will come with one big bag of chocolates and start distributing to everyone. So I was looking at the trend. So nowadays, the new trend is that whoever gives the bigger chocolate had a better birthday, it seems. That's what they told me. The kids in the OPD, that's what they told me. So, and every birthday party obviously has a cake. If you have one piece of cake only, your child's 3 days sugar intake is over, because it has so much frosting, it has all the sponge and all that. And on top of that, they will give two chocolates in the birthday party, and they will give a small mini burger or a mini puff. So that is enough sugars for the week, which means that no added sugar should be given in the week when the child goes to a birthday party. And these birthday parties keep repeating every now and then, maybe weekly one or weekly twice, one birthday parties are there. So these things needs to be avoided. So even in the birthday party, try to minimalize the thing. Maybe we can ask the cake shop people to add lesser sugars or give smaller portions of cake. If you're giving cake, you can avoid giving the other sugary things. You can replace it with nuts, you can replace it with the healthier alternatives, you can give some pepper tempered nuts or something innovative like that. And even during birthday parties, like why these are being given, this can be told, because slowly when the whole society starts to tell the same thing, then the kids also will start to accept that okay, this is going to be the norm for us. So these birthday parties, snacks during school, during Independence Day, during Republic Day, during school functions, even those need to be replaced with healthier alternatives. And peer habits, so my friend gets a chocolate every day once, you are not a good mother because you're not giving enough chocolate. So even if the kids are saying that, because every household cannot be changed, so we have to tell them that every house has its own rules and this is how it's supposed to be. We have to tell in a good way, not to reprimand them. We have to tell in a good way such that they will be able to understand what is good for them. It will not come overnight, though initially they might dislike you. Later they will, once they start to get older, they will realize that whatever you're doing is for the better. You can give some other small diversion. Say your kid likes painting, he's asked for a chocolate, he's crying for that. You can give them that new painting set, or maybe a new sheet for coloring, and distract them with an other better alternative to a sugary alternative. Yeah. Coming to the role of teachers who are at the center of the webinar today, teachers are playing a very, very important role. So, first, what I have seen is all the kids listen to the teachers and not their parents. So, the teachers, whatever they say in the classroom, is like a Bible, Quran, Bhagavad Gita for them. So the teachers need to be clear on the stand for sugars, and they need to play for younger kids slightly in the adolescent age. You can tell them the small mechanisms, the small things that will happen, and the dangers with the sugars. For the younger kids, you can tell them something like, to get complete energy, to become like Hanuman, or to become like your favorite Marvel character, you need to eat a balanced diet. You have to tell them the bad effects of sugar. As on the parallel side, you also need to highlight the good effects of having a balanced diet. Yes, complete avoidance of sugar won't be possible, but moderation is the key. And also the junk foods and the outside foods needs to be restricted. You can tell the kids that yes, they can have the junk once in a while, but that once in a while needs to be clear, so that they have a healthy lifestyle. And also it is the teacher's responsibility to give away the healthy alternatives, what needs to be taken instead of this, that we are going to discuss in the next upcoming slides. So the teachers have some surveillance role as well. So teachers need to recognize the symptoms of insulin resistance showed in the previous slide, like weight gain, lot of skin tags, lot of acne, central obesity, that is the tummy being popping out of from the kids, or the back of the neck or the back folds of the skin having this dark pigmentation. All these things need to be identified, and parent teacher meeting is an excellent time for you to discuss this aspect also with your parents, because not just a good academically good child, but a healthy child also is very important for them to go ahead in the future. Also, teachers need to discuss about screen time, and also the importance of physical activity. So there is a very so the screen time and sugar, they are like best friends. So what kids do, they sit in front of the screen, start watching. So next, what they want to munch on something. First, as adults, we need to stop doing that, because kids learn by modeling. So first, while watching TV and all, you need to stop eating in front of the kids. So when the kids start eating, what happens? They are watching the screen. So they don't know. They have one pocket of popcorn. They thought initially we'll have maybe 2 or 3 bites of that. And then slowly, while watching the TV, something has got interesting. And without knowing, the whole packet has been completed. So the whole packet of chips or the whole maybe 5 or 6 chocolates which were in their hand has been completed. So that is the relationship between screens and sugar intake. Most of the time, excessive screen time leads to overeating rather than undereating. In the young, less than 3 years, less than 2 years, it might lead to undereating, but in most of the cases, it leads to overeating only. So more screen, more sugar, obesity. So they're all very close friends and they're all related very, very closely. So we need to see that that these things need to be avoided. So lesser screen time will mean lesser overeating and lesser sugars and healthier lifestyle. Instead of screen time, they can do activities that they are interested in, and at least a 45 to 60 minutes of physical activity per day, because physical activity per day also produces the dopamine that I was talking about previously. So that good feeling that you have played well will keep you away from the sugars, and it is like a health promoting behavior which will help them to grow in the future also. And teachers need to need to highlight the signs of insulin resistance if the child is having, and also discuss the health hazards of excess sugar intake. Definitely each teacher can spend maybe 5 minutes discussing about the diet and the exercise of the child in the parent teacher meet. And because when it comes from the teachers, and it is also very acceptable to the parents and the child also, they want to live up in the teacher's eyes, so I'm sure they will do that. And there are some kids who are having this concentration issues, anxiety issues, and some kids, they become dull all of a sudden, they start becoming gloomy. So these are some early signs of anxiety and depression, and that needs to be identified by the teachers, because they spend more time at school, number one. Second, parents are working, so they're spending lesser and lesser time with the kids. So the teachers can take this up and see if any early signs of depression, anxiety, or concentration issues or learning disabilities are there, and point them out to the child, to the child's parents, so that you can get early help. If you see that one child is not able to sit in class, so the child could be affected with ADHD in the hyperactivity spectrum, or if there is some attention problems, or if the child is not able to read properly, any other learning disabilities can be pointed out along with this issue. So there are some hidden sugars in all labels. So looks like no sugar, no sugar, no sugar. Everyone keeps writing. So I just want to share a small practical tip. So I had sent my husband downstairs the other day, because they were advertising some natural ice creams containing only fruit. So I was very much interested in that, and I went down. I told him, just get me, and he got, and he said, this is perfectly healthy and you can take it during night time. So when I turn the label, then I have seen that fruit is 60%, added sucrose is some 25%, and the rest is water. So that 25%, they are not going to say sugar, because according to them, only when they add white sugar, they will write added sugar. Otherwise, they will mention it in the specific contents, which we need to observe. So in all labels, simple, we will see what are the easy tips in reading labels. So when sugar is the first content in any label, if you can see, for example, this label in the image. Yeah. So this label in the image, you can see that protein comes first, which means that a larger proportion of energy is contributing to protein. Of course, not all food labels are following the guidelines, but anyone who follows the food safety guidelines should put the highest contributor of energy on the top, and then it comes in decreasing order. Okay, so whenever sugar is the first content, it probably means that the sugar content is high, most likely, if they're following the food safety guidelines. Next, search for suffix os, okay, or sugar, or syrup, or honey, or cane sugar, or brown sugar, or malt. See, in the tablets, this is a tablet label. You can see that in the major ingredients they have not added this, but in the other ingredients they have added it. Okay, so which means that there is added sugar in this content too. Yeah, and snacks marketed as healthy snacks and sugar free, like that we have already discussed previously when we have taken up some of the questions, have date powder and jaggery. So that also counts as sugars. So how much sugar you're taking is also important. So if you can see in this label on the side, slowly in down they have written jaggery. So that most likely goes. If you see properly in even in the next version, you can see that there is something called milk powder. Even that will have sugar in the third line. And also, if you can see, total sugar is something an added sugar. See, this in this package, probably 100 grams will have 15 grams of added sugar, which is 31% of the total quantity. So you can see how much sugar has been added. So all these things need to be taken into consideration, because the wording and the marketing is made in such a way, and nicely they have written each cookie is handmade. So 99% they must be. See on the edge, you can see zero maida, no added refined sugar they have written. So we will think that this is a no sugar substitute and start taking it. Okay. And even ice creams which are sugar free, you can take guilt free scoops and all. If you take zero added sugars, 97 calories only, you see that they are made of full fat milk, high cream and skimmed milk powder, which has added sugars. And this maltitol is also an added emulsifier, and that also contains added sugars. So all these things need to be taken into consideration. This is not 97 calories only. It is 97 calories, which is 97 calories is almost like 1/4 of the meal. So we are taking this as a small sweet after the meal. So this also contains some added sugars, and this is having a lot of cream, which is adding to the fat, which on later when it gets processed, it becomes as sugar only. So now what is to be given is the big question. So instead of the cereals which are brought in the market, instead of the commercial cereals, you switch to whole grain alternatives. You can switch, like as suggested by most of the people, in that whole grains you can switch to millet alternatives. There are so many recipes which can be made with millets. Oats powder is a game changer in the entire industry. In that also you need to go for rolled oats, which are least processed oats. So you can add that. You can use oats. Then you can use ragi. You can make pancakes out of that. For small flavoring, then you can add a pinch of jaggery, because most of it is healthy in that. So you're adding a pinch of jaggery, or like maybe like a half teaspoon of jaggery. So that would do the trick. Then you can switch the flavored yogurts to plain yogurt and fruit, especially when yogurt is mixed with mango and berries. It becomes very, very flavorful, and it gives a good competition to the flavored yogurts which are available outside. Flavored yogurts are super rich in fat and super rich in added sugars. Next, the canned juices and the smoothies need to be replaced with fresh fruit juice without sugar. Already fruits have some amount of fructose. Then we don't need to add any sugar to make it further sweet and create that sugar craving for us by itself. And the one important thing I want to highlight here is, in the canned juices, I want to give a special mention to the cold drinks and the cold beverages, it's become like a part of our life. So if we are having a burger or a biryani, side mein to that drink has to be there, that cold drink has to be there for us to drink. So first of all, that burger is like the sugars enough for 2 to 3 days. In just one glass of no, I'm not using the brands, but in one glass of a cool drink that we call, there are at least 5 to 6 spoons of sugar. So that is one for the day. But we don't feel like stopping with one. Na? After one glass, another glass, maybe we are just filling little bit. So that adds to the sugar for 1.5 week. Half a week. So these cold drinks should not avoid or reduce. They have to be stopped completely if we want to have a healthy lifestyle. They're having so many other disadvantages, that they're acidic, they're having caffeine causing hyperactivity, acidity they're causing, slowly leading to corrosion of the bones and the teeth. Dental health is going for a toss with that because of the high sugar content and the acidic environment in the cold drinks. So canned juice is no better than them. Lot of sugars. See what they write on the orange juice with vitamin from real fruit. Yes, but along with that, they are not talking on the fresh and natural. They have written, but when you turn back, only you will know what is the amount of sugars that have been added to it. So best is to make fresh homemade juice and have it. Even better alternative is eat the fruit directly, so that you will get the fiber also, and when you're chewing you will get that satisfaction, and your stomach will be full in a better way, because it sends signals to your brain that you are full, and you will stop eating, and it will slowly reduce the craving. So ketchups and jams, our favorite. Anything needs to be taken which the child doesn't like. Little bit of jam or little bit of sauces you add, and the child will take it. Nowadays, sugar-free alternatives are available for this also. And even the nut butters, there are sugar-free nut butters, but yes, there is some jaggery, there is some date powder added to that, but it is the amounts have been reduced, so the sweetening has been reduced. So those kind of products they are available in the market, those can be taken up. And even these preferably shouldn't be given just before bedtime. They should be given slightly before, like maybe around lunchtime, or maybe maximum by 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. So this granola bars, protein bars, they have been glorified like the energy providers, just like the Glucon-D that you people were asking about. So they are no good. They have written oats and yogurt with coconut and all, but definitely they are not going to mention about the amount of sugars that they have added to give that acceptable taste to oats. So instead, you can use home baked ragi cookies, wheat cookies, in which you can add some amount of date powder, which obviously will be regulated by you. The outside cookies, they say ragi cookies, they say oat cookies, but how much of the sugar alternative they are adding to that you don't know. So better to make homemade cookies or home baked cookies. So what we have learned from this webinar is that high sugar intake is causing so many problems like type 2 diabetes and cardiac disease. And one second. I think one slide has been missed. Just 1 second. I think one slide has been missed. Okay, I'll just say it. So now we know that CBSE has introduced sugar boards in all its schools and its affiliated schools, so that the kids. So these boards will help to raise an awareness on the common foods containing how much sugars and all. So hopefully with the expertise of the teachers, and obviously the awareness programs like sugar boards and all, we should be able to slide along the sugar crisis which we are facing in the current generation?
Most definitely, ma'am. Thank you so much. I would like to add here that Viva Education has generated and curated a poster which we have circulated in our user schools. If in case you have not received, you can please ping us on our chat or maybe on our social media accounts. We have also given the link to download that poster. We'll also mail it to you on the email ID that you've registered with, so that you can download it and you can display it on the sugar boards that you have to, you have to. That is mandated by the CBSE for schools. So, can we continue with the questions that we have received? All right. So there is this question from an educator, an educator. So he was specifically asking for, I think, his son, but then I think that will apply to a lot of students. So if in case a student is actually very much into, you know, high activities, like maybe they're attending swimming classes or they're attending, some sort of game like basketball or anything, and if the instructor has specifically asked them or advised them to give glucon-D to the children after the sessions, is this safe, and how much specific quantity as a doctor would you recommend to be given?
No, it's not safe. No quantity is recommended because, like I was telling, it's empty calories. So, if the instructor recommends something like that, then you should tell them that you can give a high calorie fruit like banana, like jackfruit, or like mango, which are very, very rich in calories, which will give that. Along with that, some good hydration, and the ones which help in energy giving. Yes, carbohydrates give good energy, but kids who are into this activity kind of thing, the actual useful thing would be protein. So like a portion of nuts, a high calorie fruit, and good amount of water would suffice for their post workout snack or whatever meal we want to give. So if you give a high calorie fruit also, it will do just the same thing because it will have fructose and the energy will be immediate. We don't need to give, once the child is tired, we don't need to give a dairy milk or a glucon-D to them. Because when you're giving a fruit, you're giving sugars plus fiber plus some vitamins as well.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. So I would like to request Mr. Balkrishna Bharti. He has raised his hand, and probably he might want to answer some question, raise some questions. So, can you please unmute yourself and ask the question that you have? So I've allowed you to unmute yourself. Meanwhile, I'll ask the other questions that we have. So, ma'am, there are multiple questions that revolves around dark chocolate. So it's people say that it's it helps in brain boosting, and it is healthy. It's good. What do you suggest? Is it good?
Yes, there have been studies in which brain boosting studies are still not conclusive, but in heart health, dark chocolate has some good role to play. But again, it's just this much piece of dark chocolate, not the whole dark chocolate to be consumed. So the number of sugars are lesser than white chocolate in dark chocolate, but not zero again. So that moderation is important again, that the one small piece of chocolate. And there are so many other foods. If you see in the natural diet, there are so many brain boosting foods. Like I want to give a small mention on this. Fruits and vegetables in the color of GYOR, like the rainbow GYOR, green, yellow, orange, and red, are rich in vitamin A. Okay, so one of this color needs to be taken. And a small note on the rainbow plating: every child's plate should have at least 3 to 4 colors visible on the plate. That is when you can say that the child is taking a good balanced meal, because each color food will have each different types of nutrients. So if you're taking the right kind of nutrients, you won't need the dark chocolate in the first place. Your minerals and your micronutrients will do the job for the brain boosting. Was dark chocolate there in the last 2-3 generations? Did the people consume? But still, India has produced great minds, right? So it is just it's more of a Western tradition because they are used to that. But in Indian foods, we have so many foods that are rich in minerals, which we can take. Tropical fruits are the best things to be taken to for producing for giving sugar also, and for giving, and they are also a very good source of vitamins and minerals.
All right, ma'am. So, there's one question there are actually two questions which revolves around teenagers. So,
Okay.
ma'am, how much sugar is too much sugar for a teenager, and what is the way to sensitize a teenager so he quits sugary food on his own?
Okay. So this stats, I mean, the recommendations that I was giving to greater than 2 years, this 25 grams of sugar stands good for 2 to 17 years of age. So which is covered till grade 10. So all the teachers should tell all their kids, irrespective of the age, that the parents should not allow the kids to take more than 25 grams of sugar. So you're right, but still there are many kids who are very much into sugars and they really need it. So gradual reducing is the way to go about it. For example, if the child takes pastries weekly thrice, then you can initially reduce it to weekly twice by giving some other booster, allowing him to go out, maybe go to his favorite place somewhere outside without giving screen time and things like that. You can do some other health promoting behaviors like this, go out with his friends, roam around in the communities. Right nowadays the communities have quite good facilities in most of the localities, so go around in communities, play with the friends, give some extra play time. So slowly that becomes twice a week, then slowly that become once a week, then you can make it once a month, and that is an acceptable thing, right? We can't remove the junk from our system. Even we crave for junk. If after this webinar, even I might crave for some sugar. So you can't remove it out of the system, but slowly that reduction needs to be done. And along with that, because we are talking about adolescents, you need to tell them what are the bad effects. They are in a position to understand on a long term level what this would cause. And you have to tell them that they have a long way to go from here, right? It's not a for 2 year 3 year policy. They have a long way to go. They have to live not just a long life but a long and healthy life. So you
Yes.
have to tell them about the quality of life, not just the quantity of life, so they would be more interested in this.
Yes, and definitely. So I would like to invite Miss Sophia to ask the question. They've raised their hand. Miss
Hello.
Sophia, can you please unmute yourself? I've allowed you to unmute.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yeah,
You
good
are.
evening.
Okay. I would like to ask you, ma'am, how many eggs are recommended per day and age-wise? Is there can kids have two eggs or one egg white, one yolk? Could you please explain more about it?
Yeah. So for eggs, minimum one egg per day is what is advised from our end. That is the minimum. So in the egg, there are two components, like everyone knows, it's the white component and the yolk component. The yolk is rich in fats, mostly cholesterol, HDL, LDL, and the white is more of protein. So actually, the number of whites can go up to 3 to 4 also for kids, because they are more into physical activity and they're not sedentary like us sitting in front of the laptop and working. I'm sure the teachers also are not leading the sedentary life like us. So they can take up to 3 to 4 egg whites also, but the acceptance also is the key. So the amount of protein is calculated based on the body weight. The amount of protein is not should not cross more than 1.5 grams per kg. That would lead to intolerance and digestive issues. So I can safely say that for kids above 10 years of age, they can take up to 3 egg whites per day, and one egg yolk is good because they are getting some good fats, but we are not overdoing on that.
I hope that answers your question, ma'am, Sophia, ma'am. So I would like to invite Bharti ma'am to ask her question. Ma'am, can you please unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself. You've muted yourself again.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, you are now.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, my doubt is about this sugar freeze, ma'am, which we have advertisements right now, which is going on. Like, is it advisable for the teenagers to take sugar free? Are they really controlling the fat?
The way to control sugar is to reduce the sugar intake by itself, not to give alternatives. Because, for example, if you to be a little more elaborate, if you have given two sugar frees today, after that tomorrow again the child is going to crave for sugar, right? Any teenager is going to crave for sugar. So our end goal is to reduce that sugar craving overall, so that they don't turn in the lane of the sugar and they go towards healthy alternatives, rather than giving them sugar alternatives instead of sugar, and they again getting sugar cravings whenever they are going to look at the sugars. So, and like also I was telling in the presentation that the sugar alternatives like aspartame and all, they are generating lot of free radicals which will cause cell damage and ultimately might lead to some cancer. So it is not at all advisable to give it. Those are alternatives to be given very, very occasionally, definitely not on a regular basis.
Thank you for that, ma'am. So this, I think I can see one last hand raised. That is from P. Viswas. I've allowed you to unmute yourself. Please ask your question.
Um, am I audible? Good
Yes.
afternoon, ma'am, and good
Hello.
afternoon, all educators and teachers. I'm from Haryana International Academy School. Actually, and myself is Priyanka Biswas. I got an opportunity to teach in like most of the reputed CBSE schools in Kolkata. I really want to know children of ADHD who are having, who are extremely energetic in class. Their attention span is also quite less in terms of other students in the class, and children who are gifted, or you can say that they are having some kind of deficiency, or they need special assistance. What would be their nutritive menu, or what means how to keep them balanced, how to keep their energy, their concentration, everything balanced with the diet or with the food intake?
So actually, ADHD, it's a multifactorial issue. So it's not that sugars are the only cause of ADHD. Okay, that I would like to clarify. But yes, for kids with ADHD, it becomes more important to give lesser amount of sugars, because if already their attention span is less, and I'm sure the parents or the teachers must be already working different ways to improve their attention span. In spite of that, if you're going to give sugars, it is just going to increase the hyperactivity. They don't, and no special diet is recommended in the ADHD group. A normal balanced diet is recommended. Studies are going on the effect of omega-3 fatty acid supplementation that are available in the fish liver oil and all. Omega-3 syrups are also available now, or multivitamins with syrup with the omega-3 supplementation is available. That can be given additionally to slightly strengthen the neural connections, but it's still under study. But you can never, it'll have a neutral effect or a positive effect. So that can be recommended in them. But other than that, no special diet is recommended in ADHD like we recommend for seizures and all. Only a good balanced diet with less sugars and very, 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 very less screen time. That is what we recommend for ADHD kids.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for the feedback.
Okay.
Ma'am, there's one more
Yeah,
I
we'll
will
take
query request from Oppo CPH2667. The username is that. Can you please unmute yourself? I've allowed you to unmute.
Good evening, everyone. I have a query that in this monsoon season, children have a cravings for mango. Now, will 2 to 3 mangoes per day will increase the sugar level in children?
Yes, it does because mango has fructose. So definitely fructose also will contribute to the sugar balance. But these, what like I was telling, the whole grains, fruits and vegetables, they don't need to be counted with in a meticulous amount. But definitely I wouldn't recommend taking 3 to 4 mangoes because the fructose also, like glucose, is absorbed directly and it will give a sugar rush, and it will give that sudden spike of sugars and that sudden spike of energy. For even for the grains like rice, millets and all, moderation is the key. So 1 or 2 servings of fruit per day is what the RDA recommends for any child. So 3 major meals and maximum up to 2 snacks. In these 2 snacks only we can give 1 or 2 portions of fruit or 1 or 2 different types of portions of fruit. So 3 to 4 mangoes, which would go against the RDA guidelines also. So that is obviously, I would say, an excess of for any child.
All right, thank you, ma'am. One last question that we are picking up, that is from Ms. Devsmita Chaudhary. I've allowed you to unmute yourself. Please ask your question, ma'am.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good
Actually,
evening.
my question is that is honey is alternative to sugar, ma'am?
No. So honey is loaded with sugars actually. If you turn all the honey bottles and see, no matter how natural they say, they have a lot of added sugars. Honey actually comes under the class of syrups, like sugar syrups, honey syrups. All these are as bad as artificial sweeteners. So whenever you add, that will again increase the sugar content of the food. So, like I was telling, dates is a better alternative. Among all these things, dates is a better alternative. It gives us a better nutrient platter, like iron and all. Lesser dates can also give good amount of iron, not like jaggery, wherein you need to take lot of jaggery to get the actual benefit of iron. But in honey, other than that honey, there is a lot of added sugar, so it is not recommended. If you just turn the honey, so that's what I was telling in the presentation, that reading of the labels becomes so important. If you know that your honey is 100 grams or 200 grams and approximately 1 scoop serving is how much, then you yourself can calculate, if you eat 1 spoon of honey, how much of added sugar you get. You can only calculate, and the rest of the day you have to manage based on that honey. So I'm not, and honey has a lot of preservatives also. If you're able to store that honey for so long, it means that it has so many preservatives. So that is why it is not recommended. And same story again, that if we add honey as an alternative to the white sugar, then again the child will go in the same taste craving for sugars. We want, at the end of the day, we want to reduce that sugar craving and increase their acceptance towards healthier alternatives.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So, I would like to invite Sarda ma'am to sum up the webinar for us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meghna, for your such an informative session. I know we still have lots of doubts, like what to eat, but at least your session has said what not to eat.
Yeah.
And we have maybe now well trained to read the labels. I wouldn't say well trained, but we'll try to look into the hidden sources of sugar in the labels. So yes, teachers, I hope like this is the beginning of a new eating pattern. And like let us replace kuch meetha ho jaye to kuch healthy ho jaye, and kuch sugar free ho jaye, and let's stay healthy. Thank you so much
Ma'am,
for
maybe a
joining
walk
the
ho jaye.
session. Yes, thank you so much for joining the session. So like we always end with stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay connected. Thank you. Have a lovely week ahead and a wonderful academic session.
Thank you for the wonderful opportunity provided by Viva Health. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. I'm ending the session.
Yeah.